Pepper Joe's gonna be sitting.
Well, you can't allow them to sit back there. We're not allowed to sit back there according to the state of Ohio.
Sorry, Joe.
We can put a chair in here and still do it.
You can open it up and just sit right next to it. Okay. We
Sit
can
right here.
sit right by the door.
You can climb over.
No, you don't want to do that. There might be razors up there somewhere. I might cut things off. Yeah, but that's the true life Sparky or White Lightning.
Is that original to the place?
Not to here.
Gotcha. That's been used elsewhere?
Yeah.
No, it's not just the chair, but the roll-on is is part of it, or?
Yes, we've actually got both death boxes. They
Okay.
call them. That is the original death box of what it came with the chair
Okay.
originally. We have the other one, which it's not viewable right now, I don't think. Not all the way. It's actually behind this.
Oh, okay.
We haven't got the glass for that yet.
Okay.
But this is our punishment room.
Mad Dog Killers.
You guys ever seen the movie Fugitive
Yes.
with Harrison Ford and that in it?
Yes.
Believe it or not, that is a true story. The Sam Shepard case that you hear about in it, that's actually the typewriter he typed on.
Oh, okay.
It actually happened in Cleveland.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Then for the history side of the building, we call this our brick room. The reason why, you can tell it's brick, but this is actually what we left the brick exposed because this is actually what's underneath all the plaster
Okay.
in here. Interesting ceilings, huh?
Yeah, I get this picture trying to make that.
And the floor we're actually standing on is not this is actually underlayment floor.
Huh.
It's not the actual walking floor.
The doorknob for the doors at the front of the building.
We call this one our inmate experience room.
Okay.
And things they encounter while they were here.
Now, on the history, can you go ahead and tell me a little bit of the history? When did OSR establish?
Okay, the cornerstone. Actually, you wanted to get a picture of the cornerstone?
Sure, where's it at?
Right outside the door here.
We're going outside, people. Intermediate Penitentiary.
It's actually the cornerstone of the building. That block there was laid in 1886 when the prison was formed. The architecture and creator of this building is Levi T. Schofield. He's out of Cleveland, Ohio. Some of the other things he designed was the Soldiers and Sailors Monument in downtown Cleveland, the Athens Asylum in Athens, Ohio. Some of the other things that he designed. He actually traveled abroad before he actually designed this place. Traveled Europe and stuff like that to get the architectural designs. It is a Romanian Gothic Victorian style chalet style building. Now in 1896, the actual prison opened up to the first 150 inmates. Those 150 inmates actually finished building the facility. As they built their cell block, they only had one floor of the cell block built. Each time they added floors to it, they housed it immediately with 140 to 150 more men.
Oh, wow. What was the max for this place at one time?
At one time, it's 1,200 on one side and about 1,100 on the other.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
That's not including the honor farm, the solitary, and another adjacent outside dorm.
So easily up to 5,000. Gotcha. I'll lead the way.
You know, does anybody have a phone you can really step in?
Okay. The floor we're actually on has been a two and a half year restoration project. The museum in that is in a soft opening stage right now. So the actual, we call it the Grand Poobah of museum openings, is going to be opening up this year. But we actually opened it up on Black Friday of this past year. 90% of the work you see on this floor has been done by volunteers in the restoration crew. The other 5 or 10% has been actual contracted work. All the woodwork you see throughout the building is all still original woodwork. All the clay tiles that we are going to walk on tonight are all still original tiles. Even the stained glass in a lot of the rooms are still original. So we try to put everything back to how it was back when it was opened up.
Okay.
Now, one thing I like telling a lot of people is you drive up to the front of the prison. Do you see downspouts outside? The downspouts are actually inside the walls.
Oh, wow.
Because Levi did not want anything on the outside of the structure to make it look gawky.
Gotcha.
So another thing you've never seen outside the building is fire escapes. Well, because all the fire escapes are all internal. Staircases are all steel. The only thing that's wood on all the staircases you will be walking on is the top hand railings. Even the spindles are steel.
Oh, wow.
This is actually, for the ones that have seen Shawshank, this is actually the staircase where Andy and the warden walks down talking about library books in the movie. So, any other before we move on?
Proceed on.
Proceed on. I'm just used to people asking questions.
Now, Civil War part of it. You was telling me earlier about the Civil War.
Okay. Yeah. Before,
So you tell me.
the most I know about the Civil War part, this was actually a training camp for the Union soldiers, but they also did house a few Confederate soldiers as prisoners.
Okay.
That was on the grounds. Some of the other stuff that goes on here that did go on, of course, natives traveled the land before that. So there's a lot of mojo running around the property for the paranormal side.
So we're going to proceed on
Yep.
rather than the private quarters.
We're actually, the floor we're actually on now was at one time the assistant warden's living quarters.
Okay.
He had this entire floor for himself and his family.
Okay.
Living rooms, bathrooms back there, bedrooms, dining rooms, kitchens, and everything was in here. Now, later in the years, it became offices and stuff like that. Now, the wall and doorway we just walked through is actually a movie prop. That is actually, Hollywood put that up to actually make this an office here for Andy Dufresne from Shawshank.
Okay.
So the door you see there with the window busted out of it, that is actually what's left of when the guard busted the window out from the movie.
Oh.
Hopefully by this time next year, this complete area, outside and inside both, will be completely restored. It's actually going to become our Shawshank Museum.
Oh, okay.
Because 2019 is actually the 25th anniversary of Shawshank.
Oh, okay.
So we're hoping to have a decent shindig, or however you want to call it, during 2019. Now the warden's office for Shawshank, Warden Norton's office, is actually right there. We just got done restoring it last spring. It's got a brand new hardwood floor in it, and all the wainscoting has been updated to the point where we even still have the safe from the movie in it.
Oh, wow.
So if you guys want to head on in and film.
So those props from the movie too, or is that just stuff that
We actually brought them, found stuff to bring them back
Gotcha.
to recreate the scene.
Gotcha.
But I will point out some more props throughout the building for it. Now, remember me telling you about the downspouts in the walls?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, behind these boards are the downspouts.
Oh, wow. So if they had to repair, they had to come inside
Yeah.
and open it up to repair
Yeah,
it.
throughout the building, you'll see pipes exposed in the outside walls.
Yeah.
Those are actually the downspouts.
Gotcha.
So,
And then of course the safe.
yep, the safe. Okay.
We're slowly getting in here.
You don't have to worry about them, it's just us two.
Oh, okay, okay. Now the area we're in now, I usually like to stop with when I do my personal tours with groups, is the question I ask my groups is take a look outside the windows, let me know if you see anything suspicious or funny looking just outside the windows.
The bars are curved.
Okay. Bars are curved, those are actually movie props. Those bars and that big gate that you see outside the window there go along with a movie called Air Force One.
Okay.
That's with Harrison Ford in it, where they hijacked Air Force One. We were actually the Russian prison in Air Force One.
Oh, okay.
So they put the bars on the windows because the front half of the building never had bars. So it didn't look so, I don't know how you want to say it, mean looking when the young guys came up here. Because when Levi T. Schofield built this building, it was for first-time young offenders from the age of 13 to 30. They had to come in here for petty crimes like pickpocketing, purse snatching, stuff like that. Levi also worked with the state to make this the halfway point between the Ohio Boys Home and the Ohio State Penitentiary. So there was a halfway point. Because back in that day, everybody went to the Ohio Pen. Men, women, and kids. So they started branching off to get everybody separated from out of there. So they came up with the Ohio State Reformatory. Majority of the guys that were here spent anywhere from 12 to 16 months here, and they were out. But so when they were here, they had to do three things while they were here. They had to keep up with their education. The education was so good here that the guys that were actually getting early release would actually turn down their parole to finish their education. They had to keep up on the religion. They had to practice religion while they were inside here. The third thing is they had to learn skills and trades. Now, some of the skills and trades they had here, they had a tailor shop, they had a wood shop, they had a shoe shop, mattress factory, they had a cannery, they had a butchery, barber shop. They even taught locksmithing here.
So that any of these that they had trade, was it any of the stuff that was traded here was able to be sold outside of the
Yes.
building?
A lot of the goods did go, some of them did go to other facilities, and they traded out that way. Plus, as a citizen outside the walls, they actually produced a book like Sears and Roebuck would have, and the general public could buy merchandise from the inside here, especially furniture. The furniture was so beautiful that came out of here. So,
Interesting.
also when I stop here, I do the tell us about a lot of the movies that were filmed here.
Mm-hmm.
So far, you know Shawshank and Air Force One. Our movie career actually started in 1976 here, with a movie called Herring Water Went to New York. It was filmed here. 89-90 was Tango and Cash with Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. Those two movies that were filmed here that I just told you about were filmed here when the prison was operational. Shawshank, Air Force One, several Class B horror movies were all filmed here. And the latest one that just got filmed here, Escape Plan 3, have been all filmed here when it has been closed. So they had to move prisoners around when it was operational to different areas of the prison while they were filming in certain areas. So it was a big,
Interesting.
yeah.
Trying to maintain.
So like the room we're kind of standing in, it's also kind of like the assistant warden's kitchen dining room area.
Gotcha.
So. You gotta get Morgan Freeman in the picture, you know?
Okay, have Morgan Freeman in the picture.
The room we're in now was used by Shawshank as a parole board room. I've heard several people say at one time they did use this as a parole board room. That's why Shawshank decided to use it. Some of the incidents, movie props that were left over, like the ceiling, the plywood mounts you see on the ceiling was actually camera and lighting mounts from the movie crew. They also, hate to say it, the beautiful doors that are in this place, they actually destroyed them by cutting the bottoms off the doors. So when they closed the doors, they could close them fully without having the cabling get caught up in the doors to keep it not closing all the way. They also cut the hole in the center of the door for the camera.
Oh, wow.
So in the movie, you see the back of Morgan Freeman's head, but you see all the face of the parole board. That's all done from outside looking in.
Huh, interesting.
Some of the interesting movie facts about Shawshank is Morgan Freeman's booking picture was not actually Morgan Freeman. It was actually his son, Alfonso Freeman.
Oh, wow.
Now, Alfonso Freeman actually had a speaking part in the movie. He was the one guy, when Andy Dufresne got off the bus and started walking towards the prison, he was the one saying, "Fresh fish, round them in." So that was his first movie debut as an actor. A lot of people don't know it's a Stephen King novel. I'm trying to think what else here, going through the list here. Tom Hanks was actually supposed to play Andy Dufresne, but he was actually filming Forrest Gump at the time when Shawshank was supposed to be filmed.
Gotcha.
But before this was Shawshank's room, this was actually the chaplain's quarters.
Oh, okay.
He had this room, he had 2 rooms down the hallway outside the door here, plus he had a bathroom right down the hall here. So the chaplain was on site all time.
Times, yeah.
Now we are actually in the actual living quarters of the actual warden. This would have been his bedroom area.
Okay.
The downstairs, which if you want, we can walk down there, and so you can take a look around, because the dining room that he actually had was downstairs.
Okay.
We'll go down there if you want for a few seconds or towards the end of the filming. A bedroom living up here. It's actually known as a known hot spot too up here.
Okay.
This is where Helen Glackey actually got killed at up here.
Okay.
The story behind that is she was pulling her jewelry box, hat box out of her closet. When she tilted it down, she didn't realize her husband's service revolver was on top of it. It slid off the box, hit the floor and discharged and shot her through the lung.
Okay.
She did not die here. She did die 7 days later at the local hospital of complications.
Okay.
There's a lot of stories floating around out there. You know, the warden had somebody kill her and stuff like that. But their sons were actually in their bedroom across the hallway, and they came running when they heard the gunshot.
Now, I've heard the stories about the pink bathroom that people have come through and heard smell women's fragrances and felt experiences.
Yeah, Helen is known to visit this area, especially when there's a lot of children running around, because she loved children and stuff. How you know she is present, she actually wore a rose water perfume. So if you smell like a rosy smell, she's usually around.
Okay.
But the pink bathroom is actually right back over the corner here.
Okay.
But her bathroom was actually right here.
Oh, okay.
She was also known for her Buckeye beer.
Buckeye beer.
She made and brewed her own beer here.
Oh, wow.
And when she got here, it was during that Prohibition time.
Yeah.
Well, alcohol was illegal.
Yeah.
And here she's living inside of a state prison making beer.
Well, if you're married to the warden, I'm
Yeah.
sure you can get by with a lot of things.
So the boys told us there's a turret inside that room that she actually kept all her beer inside the turret.
Oh, wow.
So, but her bedroom was the front left bedroom here. The boys were right across the hall.
Okay.
Yes, and when I say hall, this is the hallway.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think it's another room.
So for the warden, for them to be able to entertain, have they actually did personal entertainments up here that you know of?
Nah, I don't think up here, but in the dining room area,
Okay,
because the dining room is a good sized dining room.
yeah. Is that the one with the big round table?
Yep.
downstairs with the- Okay, that's the
Yep.
one that, I got you.
You probably seen when you went to the gift shop.
Yes.
So,
See it on?
okay.
I'm assuming that Brooks is not the one with the stairs. Because I've been seeing on each of the house.
Yeah, Brooks is actually the company out of Cleveland that built the steps.
Okay.
And it was just a coincidence that the character in the novel was named Brooks too.
What's with the load limits on?
I think that was put up there the years afterwards when they started using this for a lot of storage.
Okay.
The area we're in now is actually the Dignitary Suite area, they called it, where dignitaries would come and visit.
Okay.
Mayors, cabinet members, governor of the state, and stuff like that. When they came here, back in the early days, train, horse and buggy, mile A. So it took a while to get here. So when they came here, they made it worthwhile. They stayed for several days. So these rooms here would have been bedrooms
Okay.
with a shared bathroom on the floor. Big open area in the center. They would set chairs up here, and what's back there is actually is a stage.
So they entertained up here.
They did their meetings up here. They had a podium they put up there. They did their meetings and that. In the evenings, while they were downstairs eating, inmates would come in here, fold the chairs up, and turn this into dance hall or put them in rows. The inmates' bands would come in and perform for them and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So this is another known hot spot. There's a guy up here that likes to sit in his chair, and he doesn't like ladies too well.
Oh, wasn't there?
So
First time.
it's another good hot spot. So, I like stopping here because we do have a little history about the front of the building on this side. If you happen to look outside, the block sizes change. If you look at the bottom half of the cell block wing, the blocks are bigger, and about halfway up they get smaller.
Yeah, I see that.
And there's a straight line from one end of the building all the way across. Well, the state of Ohio ran out of money building this facility, especially on that wing there. So they tried to implement all different kinds of sales tax, and everything just kept failing and failing and failing. Well, the last thing they tried was a whiskey tax. Well, whiskey drinkers could care less where their money went, so they just wanted their whiskey. So we call that our whiskey line because whiskey money actually finished building this facility.
Oh, wow.
You want them in here too, or?
If they want to follow along, they can. It's not that. There comes one.
Is Joel coming?
I have no idea. I haven't seen him. Oh,
He's
no.
back there.
He's
Did you want to come in too? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put it in isolation.
Okay, the room we're actually in now is the infamous chair room that a lot of people do hear about. Not the reason why it sounds like a chair room. No legal sanctioned executions ever happened here. So the reason why we call this a chair room, we used to have an antique wooden chair in here, and you could take that chair and move it anywhere inside this room that you wanted to, leave, come back, and it's right back in the middle of the room.
Oh, wow.
We haven't seen it done with any of these chairs yet. There must have been something about that antique wooden chair in here. Now, the things I like to do with the group, because I get a lot of people that are really, really enthused about the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is make everybody grab a piece of real estate along the wall, and while they're standing there, I start telling them about the ghost side of the building. How we come in, you do your registration, you do all this stuff, and when you start hunting, there is no lights on inside the building. So the only thing that you have to use is a flashlight. So what I like doing is, I like using my pusher does this for in the groups. We come up here and we go like that. And it's so dark in here, you can't even see your hand come up and touch your nose. That kind of gives people an idea how dark it actually gets inside the building. So, but like I said, we haven't seen the chair move at all since that antique wooden chair got destroyed.
Does anybody have a theory of the reason why this room?
We have no idea what this, I have some knowledge of what this room was used for. It was actually a photography room and dark room.
Oh, okay.
Guards would come up here and get their photos taken for their employee badges and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But before that, we have no idea. I think it's weird that there's no windows in this room. And right outside the door here, the staircase you see at the end of the hall leads up to the Christian chapel.
Huh.
So who knows what this room was actually used for. It's kind of interesting. It's right across from a chapel and no windows, so.
Have you experienced to see if sound travels?
No, I haven't, but we have walked by this outside when this light's off, and once in a while we get a few of our guests in that say they do hear like a growling sound coming out of here. And when you're standing down there on the chapel steps, and I'm looking back this way, once in a while I do see a big shadow mass standing in the doorway, filling this entire doorway up. But we don't know who it is or what it is.
Okay.
So it's another good hot spot to investigate. I'm trying to think where Lauren's at. I could use her. Lauren, hurry up and turn that off. Come here. I need you behind me for the light switch.
What?
The light switch behind me.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually have you right here in front of me.
Okay.
Okay. When Levi T. Schofield designed this building back in the 1800s, he didn't have much to work with tool-wise. He didn't have computerized blueprints, laser levels, and stuff like that. So there's 4 rooms off my shoulders, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, with a window in each room. The building is so symmetrical, and if people are wondering what symmetrical means, means it's the same all the way around type deal. That the building is actually an 1/8 inch off center to this date, and the center of the building is at my feet. Now, it's going to be hard with the camera lights on right now to see it, but if you could dim them down just a hair, if you look at my feet, there's actually an X.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Now, if you believe the internet, and of course everybody says the internet's always right and true, that if you step on that X, it's a porthole to here, porthole to there, and all that good stuff.
Okay.
And they say if you lay down on it during that witching hour,
Yeah.
evil things will happen to you. Well, let me tell you, probably 90% of us volunteers and staff have done it, and we're still here today.
You're still here today.
So, but yeah, all 4 of these windows in these rooms here actually make a complete X.
Interesting.
I forgot he had his camera light on. Yes, that is actually the scene from Shawshank. That is actually Brooks's halfway room from the movie. Where Brooks, when he got released from prison, that's where he went.
Okay.
Now, as we go up the steps into the Christian chapel, we're going to go through 3 doorways up at the top of the steps.
Okay.
Now, the first doorway you see has a wooden door. Once we cross that wooden door, you will never see a wooden door again in the building.
Okay.
From that doorway forward, it's all wooden doors. From that doorway back, it's all steel doors. That is actually where civilian life and inmate life actually get separated at.
Gotcha.
At the top of the steps. Now, you guys do have access tonight to the floor that's above us.
Okay.
There's actually 2 flights of steps that take you upstairs. It's a hefty climb to get up there, but it's a good climb.
Okay.
It is actually the original hospital to the building.
Okay.
Once that hospital closed, they actually turned it into the TB ward.
Okay.
Of course, back then, all they knew how to cure TB or make patient comfortable was plenty of sunlight and fresh air. Well, at the top of the prison, it's the highest floor of the building, so it's going to get plenty of sunlight and fresh air. So we're actually in the Christian chapel now. And above us, in this same area that we're standing in now, if you happen to look at the walls, there's actually an impression on the walls. There used to be a balcony above us. And every Sunday what would happen is 4 or 5 inmates would come up here and set folding chairs up here. About 500 to 600 folding chairs. Inmates would come up here and actually sit for church service. Doorways behind us, especially the one right behind us, would be closed and locked. The other 2 would be open. The general public would come up, go upstairs on the balcony and have their church services with the inmates at the same time in here. It was kind of an elegant place. I don't know how much of a black and white picture you can actually see on the camera, but that's actually what it would look like from the front looking backwards.
Oh, those are pigeons.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hearing pigeons. So this is basically just a generic denominational church, or?
This was the Christian chapel. There was another one inside the building. It was a Dominican chapel. And there was another one outside, which that had all the other religions practiced in it.
Gotcha. So it was basically, it's squared away
Yeah.
most of the religions that were here.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Now, doorways off to my left and right. One goes into the west cell block, one goes into the east cell block.
Okay.
I'll take you in to the beginning of the west attic right now.
Okay.
Tell about that area, then we'll come back across and we'll go over to the east.
Okay.
And nobody's afraid of heights, right? Okay, the one thing I do want to mention, since we are filming, there are some rated R pictures on the wall.
Okay.
So
Right up his alley.
so you can capture them, but it's you guys' call if you
Gotcha.
do anything with them. So, but I usually don't point them out unless people ask.
Okay.
But we do tell our tours that do have the minors in them to try to keep them towards the center
Gotcha.
for that reason. The attic here, as we walk backwards here, it was actually a big open room. None of these ventilation ducts that you see here was in here.
Okay.
Guards would actually bring inmates up here. Once we get back here to the back, and I'll get more into that thing. But about 1930s, the Ohio Penn in Columbus caught on fire. They ended up bringing 250 inmates up here. The guys at the Ohio Penn were your career criminals, your murderers, your rapists, your bank robbers, and stuff like that. The guys we had here were first-time young offenders. So the staff here did not want to mix those kind of guys together with first-time young offenders. So they ended up putting those 250 guys up here on bunk beds.
Oh, gosh.
So you've got 250 guys up here housed all the time.
Yeah.
So who knows what happened up here? There are 3 guys up here that we know of. A guy that shuffles his feet as he walks, one stomps his feet as he walks, and there's a Mr. B.
Mr. B.
Yep.
And I'm surely Mr. B got Mr. B because he established himself as Mr. B?
I have found, what's weird is I found an obituary of a guard that worked here, and the inmates actually listed him as Mr. B. Called him. But I don't know if it's the same Mr. B or not, but it's kind of weird. Okay, when the guards brought inmates up here, before they housed inmates up here, they brought them up here because they wanted to teach them, especially the inmates that just did not get prison life. Mm-hmm. So who knows what happened up here. We do have a few stories that when they brought them up here shackled, They hooked them up over that hook that's on the wall there between the two doors. Of course, it'd be like the old-fashioned hook them up over. They would take the barber strap to them.
Oh, wow.
And if they broke skin or anything like that, they left them hang to heal. Then they would take them back to their cell. A lot of those inmates did not say what happened up here because they were afraid of coming back up here.
Gotcha.
So, just like I do for like the chair room, the guards would come down here. Once the guys were in here as a bunk room, one guard would stand up there, and the other one would walk all the way down here. As he walks back, he does his head counts at night. Once he gets back down, he'll turn around, face back down there, and goes, "Lights out!" and kill the lights. So they've got 250 inmates in here in nothing but darkness.
Oh, wow.
So who knows how many would be alive the next morning. Okay. But these rooms here probably got converted over the years to showers and bathrooms for that reason.
Yeah.
You have access to these rooms. You have access back in the ventilation fan. If you want, along the walls here are names, dates, inmate numbers of guys that came up here and wrote their names on the walls.
Oh, wow.
So, once in a while we do smell a smoke, like a burning smoke smell up here. Well, the guys that housed up here came from a fire.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how much you're familiar with the Ghost Asylum
Yes.
guys, but
Yeah,
toward
they were right there, Porter and Doogie.
right there. Yeah, they built a ghost trap and they set it right there in that drain at the end of their show.
But they also put a periscope inside one of those rooms, the threshold.
So, this is one of the good hot spots. It's actually quiet up here when it gets warm up here. I actually did fall asleep up here with the our celebrity hunt one time. Sat in a chair waiting for the group to change that I had up here. Kicked back, and it was so quiet because everybody was actually just listening. Next thing I know, I get a voice in my ear saying, "Change," in my ear. I was like, okay. Yeah, it's so quiet and peaceful up here that, and with my background and history of the building, not a lot of things bothered me.
Yeah.
So we're going to go head over to East Block now. Now, while we're over here in West Block as we're walking, West Block is 5 tiers high and about 70 cells per floor.
Yeah.
There are single, doubles, and 4-man cells on this side. Most of the guys that were housed on this side were actually trustees, lifers. They knew the way of life of prison. I like to refer to Brooks as an institutionalized man from Shawshank. That's what kind of guys actually lived on this side. Now, all the newcomers and the riffraff inmates all were housed on the east side. Inmates even named each side. East side was named as Motel 6, and the west side here was named as the Hilton.
Oh, wow.
So once we get down to the ground floor, you can compare and see what I mean by
Yeah.
the sides.
So, you know how some people had gotten certain people in prison, and of course, they got a little bit more royalties than others. Just giving for a take, I know he was never here, but Al Capone had privileges where he was at. Did any of our past prisoners might have had been one of those types of
I'm not
privileges?
sure, but I can tell you that the guys from the east to west,
Yeah.
like on a Friday and Saturday night, the lights out on the east side would have been at 10 o'clock. The guys here in the west, sometimes lights didn't go out till 2 a.m.
Oh, wow.
because of the behavior between the two.
Gotcha.
So it was a different world from side to side.
Yeah.
So,
Always said the little four-legged friend needs some attention.
the 4-legged friend needs some attention.
Okay.
Do you want to hold off here and go down and check on him?
Wait, is he whining or is he like? Is the dog whining? They want to know if the dog's whining. Oh, love that.
What's wrong?
He pooped in his cage.
Oh, yay.
He'll be down in a few minutes.
Okay.
Sure hope not.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say you could have snuck down the steps there if you wanted to and come back up. And Lauren can take you down those steps right out there.
I gotta look at it and mark it.
Hey, Lauren,
Okay.
you want to walk her down the steps down and bring her back up? You want to walk her down those steps and bring her back up? Right here.
Pause it.
Yeah.
So do you guys have any questions yet of what you've seen? I know you've been here before.
Very different than,
A lot of changes have been made.
yeah,
It's been a good 5 years since I've been here. There's a lot of changes that have been made since then.
late 90s.
Now, if anybody's wondering why the Russian tapestry is behind me in a Christian chapel,
Oh, I just noticed that.
that is actually from the latest movie, along with the blood spatter on the wall.
Say that again.
And it's still there.
The Russian tapestry that is behind me is actually from the latest movie that was filmed here. And I just can't go into more details about it right now.
For obvious reasons.
Yes.
So we know something in that movie, something